All right, traders, how y'all doing? Welcome in. It's a Saturday morning, and I can't help but looking at the charts. I don't love it. I might not be passionate about it, but I am obsessed. And as you guys have seen, we've had a pretty significant drawdown across crypto assets. Excuse me. Clear my throat just got up for the day. ETH front ran this low and has reacted. So what's going to happen? Now, if we just look at the charts, we've had little bounces on various things. I was looking at helium. We can go away with that. Honestly, mostly it was Bitcoin that's in ETH that sold off. If we look at a lot of these altcoins, hang on one moment. A lot of the alts actually didn't sell off much or at all yesterday in the dump that affected Bitcoin and ETH. We're getting long signals on different alts. This one is taking this low and is holding above it, for instance. DYDX is kind of holding above this old low, just barely. I'm not one for longing beaten down alts, but I'm just noting that the market's at a low place after a long sell-off. And also something that I know is usually the bigger moves tend to happen towards bottoms, not always, but there will be a slow grind down and then a big flush. And I think that we've possibly had our big flush. Now, in order to clear my throat here, to get a better idea of what's going on, it's important to get an idea of trader positioning. Okay, so we come in here, and I'm not using Twitter sentiment, I'm not using crypto fear and greed. There's negative funding on Bitcoin. Is it significant? So if we look down here, it is significant. We look at the 8-hour funding on Bitcoin. That was a pretty significant bottom. Funding is staying negative at the moment on volume. If we look over here on the 1 hour, that funding event was as much, roughly as much as this bottom. It was similar. Not quite as extreme, but it was more than any other event since. So this, from a funding perspective, looks a lot like this. Now we also have, okay, so what is that? All that to say that traders are still positioned quite short. Now we look at open interest. Here's another way to look at this. We look at CVD. Still a bit laggy. What's going on here? Let's take a look again. We look at CVD. Okay. I see the open interest has basically been about flat as futures sells off, which means probably increased short positions. We see spot appears stepped in and started buying here, right? We've got an uptick on spot, while futures perps actually down. So all this to say, locally this looks like a buy point. And if so, I've been saying this, it might not happen, but if this does hold as a bottom, that would be a lower high, sorry, a higher low, which is bullish from market structure perspective. And we could spend a lot of time under here, it's possible. But how long was this bear market? To multiple years. I mean, it could be multiple years, but to me, I'm interested in being a buyer, not a seller, considering the positioning. I'm more interested in Bitcoin. So we could just buy, right? That's a possibility. Now the question though is, what's the best way to do it? Do we want to buy a sweep of the wick? Where do we want our stop to be? Do we want to buy locally right in here with this 4-hour gap? Um, Good questions. Does it matter? Are we going to come in and sell off again on Monday? Um, all good questions. So how would we structure it? Again, I'm more interested in Bitcoin than ETH, just from a funding perspective. People are really negative on Bitcoin right now, more so than on ETH. Okay, so, or do we just market order right now? Well, considering prices coming down, would maybe be interested in going up again. I mean, this has been, this is like quite an interesting area to try to buy, possibly. Is that the 4-hour gap too? It's just under it. Where would we say we're wrong? Maybe the low of this candle. Because if it keeps sweeping, we're back into that again. So I don't know that we want to buy a sweep of it. We don't have to take this low. It would be nice. But once again, if we don't, it will cause a lot of chasing. So this is what happened right here is we front ran an important low. And it caused a lot of chasing later on. So I'm okay with the idea of a front run. So in which case, I think I want my stop at the low, not a sweep of the low. Because if we keep sweeping the low, like it's over. Now we've got the 1-hour gap, we've got the 4-hour gap. Somewhere in here, I mean, does it matter very much? What is price at right now? That's interesting. I did have a limit order right in here, which would be working pretty decent. A limit order here would have been insane though. 342. We also might just continue the sell-off on Monday. Right. One issue is we spend a couple days here. It's acceptance at lower prices, which isn't really good. And then there's also the question of where do I want my take profit to be? I think I actually have a TP, a buy right here. Price coming down. What about ETH? It's possible that's the high of the reaction and we just... Okay, well what's coming next is probably some kind of a retest. Okay. Let's look at it on this chart. My preference would be to be a buyer in this 4-hour gap, considering as well we have this right here. It's so close though, my concern is it just runs without me. It doesn't fill. Considering it's sort of a sharp pullback. I don't like the idea of just being a buyer here. Patience. What's going on with helium? So I could have. Looks okay. Right, we got to think about where the weekend closing. Like, is it going to gap up? Is it going to create a gap? I think I like the idea of market ordering, possibly. Also, as far as I like the idea of having to stop at the low because if we're sweeping this low, we're just sweeping lower, lower. I also like the idea of reversing this move. So at the least, price would come up here, back to 60,000 again. No, 57. Something like this. I mean, honestly, eventually, maybe make it back up to, yeah, 61. I could also try to ladder entries. So I could have an order here. And I could have an order here. That doesn't really make sense though. I feel like we shouldn't sweep this low. Or rather, if we do, then I wouldn't necessarily want to trade it. Just thinking about the best way to get in. I mean, the funding rate on ETH is already jacked back up. So the opportunity there is maybe gone. I mean, ETH could drag Bitcoin down as well. This is what I need before getting into a position, is really think about it. Okay. I mean, Bitcoin looks like something that I want to long. It does look like it's continuing down though. I think as of now I have a limit order at 54,000. I think it's got to retest the lows over the weekend, or at least have a healthier pullback. So maybe I leave that alone for now. I think my stop is at 55. No, is that 53? I think my stop, my TP, is at 55, but I feel like aiming for 57 is better. ETH. I mean, it's kind of bleeding off. If there's a wick earlier, maybe it'd give me a sign, but yeah, I'm okay with the current setup, I think. Although I think I like this 57 target. It seems likely that this gap would get filled on this gap. So for ETH, I'm kind of interested in buying here, but just saying, okay, we have Spot has come in and bought this bottom, and perps have been keeping the sells on. Makes me think there could be a move up that has a lot of force, right? What's bringing the price down right now? Let's go to 1 minute. It's okay. Selling. It looks like longs. Some of its longs getting liquidated is what's happening. Okay. I'm about to go walk. Longs. Okay. Here we go. Close to getting filled. Mm, this is a place where we might not get filled. Yeah, I think I'm going to. think about taking my entry here. We might need to like really have a decent retest of the low for people to think like a sharper move down. I understand ETH BTC has been a lot stronger since the bottom. However, I like the positioning on Bitcoin a lot more than ETH. By the way, guys, again, this is what I'm uh oh, we can have all this on here. Check this out. This, and aggregate funding rate. Yo, love it. Does this look? Aggregated funding rate. Why can I not see? Right. This is the sort of work that I wanted to be done before even thinking about entering a position. Right. ETH just doesn't look nearly as good as funding has come up. Spot hasn't really bought. It's actually been more longs coming in. 267. This wick probably is a good place to try. Considering how it looks, it's hard for me to think that Bitcoin is going to continue to sell off. Although anything is possible. Um, okay, now we have everything we need. Spot was selling. You see a lot of uptick here before, and we're seeing actually Spot came in and started buying a little bit even before the bottom, but yeah, right around here started buying. And even locally, okay, we've got some longs getting taken out here. 210. So I'm ready to either get filled or to enter. I like 54,000. Seems fine. And then that could possibly become our target. ETH. Yeah, I think they're going to try to retest the bottom and they're going to find that. I think that's maybe a good place to buy. I could hold for lower. Or I mean, try to enter lower. What's happening right now in the 1 minute? Doesn't really update. You have to change the time frame. On the 1 minute, It's a lot of longs getting stopped, it looks like. Okay. I'll just buy this decline. I'd like it to go just a little bit lower, take out this wick. Here we go. Okay, I want to get in. Okay, we're likely to get filled at 54. But if not, this is a high volume candle. Just need a little bit further. Might front run me. Get filled. Okay. Should have been filled, no. Oops. Okay, I got filled. All that settles it. I do want to look out for this 1 hour box too, but this is why I like the limit orders. I don't need to be really watching it, but I mean, locally, that's a pretty good entrance, right? I'm trading half a Bitcoin, is what I'm trading. Okay. Really excellent. I don't need more risk than what I have. Yo, that was absolute money. Yeah, this is honestly how I used to trade was the limit orders, and I would get absolutely fucking sniper entries, insane entries. And I'm really trying to get back to that. I mean, I happen to be watching. We also might dump lower, but it's much better than if I come in later. Um, it made sense, right? To at least have a reaction here. And then here, let's take a look. What happened there in the 1 minute? Might just go lower too, it's possible. Okay, we are seeing spot selling, but futures selling more, and we had, come on, this is, no, no, here, let's look. Gotta do the 5 minute. Huge drop in open interest. This is a longs getting liquidated. Yeah, it looks good. I don't want to add more. I mean, I could. It's at least locally a good entrance. I already have plenty of risk. The question is now TP, and let me also rethink my stop loss. So my idea for a stop is maybe this is bad, but I don't necessarily see why we should at 53,000. I just feel like if we go near the lows, we take the lows, and then I need to reevaluate. I could be swayed to having a stop. I mean, the way it is, I want to add risk, but I'm not going to do that. I like using this as defense, for sure. I could look at the order book to have an idea. The spot order book. Let's look at that. Um, let's look at the order book. No, hang on. Aggregate order book. There we go. Market depth. Give an idea. This doesn't really mean that much, but we see there's a lot more bids than asks, which is bullish. There's a lot at 62. There's so many down to 44. I guess I'm interested in more local. 50. The order book's getting pretty thick in here, so maybe just a little bit lower might be safe. Like 52,800 would be okay. And then where's the order book kind of more thin? I mean, definitely 60 is pretty thick, so before that. But I like the idea of this, people getting shocked that this whole move reverses. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set my TP at 57,000. And I'm gonna set my stop at 52,800. Okay. Um, we could keep dumping, it's possible. But I mean, locally we had the volume come in. Okay. Now, last thing I want to look at is liquidation heat map. I could also be convinced to use a nearer TP. Like, something in here would be a lot more likely. And then I could reevaluate possibly. But I also like the idea of letting it run and then seeing if there's a huge spike, funding, whatever, I can advance my stop. Okay, almost pal. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of aiming back for 57. Or if there's a sharp move, can think about covering. Oh, looks like price coming back down. But I didn't get excited to add or nothing like that. What's this one doing? I'm glad I got out of that. Okay. So I've done my homework and I'm in the trade and I got a great entry locally. Now I'm not going to have any other limit orders on just out of a risk perspective. I kind of want to trade inside, not outside. So trading outside would be having a limit order here or having a limit order. I don't see why we should keep. Well, that's not a reason. It's just mostly for risk control. I don't want to take multiple losses, so I'm just going to leave this one, and I'm going to target a reversal back to the high, and then if we get that, I'm going to look to um, from there just evaluate. So yeah, happy trading, y'all. Much love and good luck. Peace.